Hey, everybody. My name is Archange Antoine, and this is the Archange Antoine Report. We are a radio, TV show who is empowering our audience to learn about what's happening in the community, to what's happening in our politics, and what's happening in the human rights space. We want to make sure that our audience is informed, hear from some of our guests who are doing some of the work, who are doing legislative work, political work, and just doing regular grassroots community work. I hope that you can grow with me. This is our first day, but we look forward to just growing and expanding. If you have any questions, or if you want to see any guests, or you want to see any particular topics, reach out to me at Archange Antoine on any social media, or send me an email at info@archangeantoine.com, and I'll get back to you. In the meantime, let's grow together, keep your head up, and may God bless you.
Desde abajo se defiende a todo mundo. Radio Jornalera, donde tu voz encuentra un eco amplificado, donde tus derechos salen a la luz y disipan el miedo, donde tus aportes a la sociedad se evidencian, donde se reconoce que tus luchas reivindican derechos para todas y todos. Radio Jornalera destaca a la gente humilde que pelea por sus derechos a pesar de sus circunstancias de despojo y marginación. Eleva a los individuos y sus luchas y muestra cómo la clase trabajadora y humilde puede ser agente de cambio cuando se organiza, cuando se defiende y cuando tiene una lectura correcta de su propia realidad. Radio Jornalera provee el espacio para aprender de los invitados e invitadas sobre sus vidas, lo que les motiva a seguir adelante, sus virtudes y desafíos y hasta su música y poesía favorita. Radio Jornalera recalca el trabajo de activistas, organizadores, educadores y algunas celebridades, sus causas, sus campañas, sus estrategias, sus tácticas y los reveses más duros en el perenne quehacer de formar líderes para hacer el mundo más justo, más humano, más inclusivo. Para cambiar el mundo, primero hay que conocer a las personas que sobreviven las injusticias y políticas públicas groseras. Hay que apoyar y solidarizarse con sus luchas, porque desde abajo se defiende a todo mundo. Radio Jornalera, donde los anhelos y el sentir del pueblo trabajador cobran vida.
Hey, beautiful people. I'm back here with you all again to celebrate a huge victory of Resistencia En Acción. They had a huge win in Princeton Municipality, fighting for immigration rights and workers' rights, and recently, collectively with the community and with leaders, they were able to get a resolution passed that supports the Immigrant Trust Act. And today I'm here with two great organizers, Asma and Richard. We're going to talk a little more about their experiences and what it took to keep the community engaged, active, and in the fight for this justice and for this win. Princeton has been under a lot of attacks under ICE, and we see what's happening all around the nation with this fascist regime, which is really targeting our documented and undocumented sisters and brothers, and really using ICE as a tool for state violence. So I want to first bring on Richard Torres, who is going to talk to us a little and help us understand what was happening in the community. Richard, we're thankful for you joining us today. We're happy that you can be a part of us. Give us some perspective of what has been happening in Princeton and what are some of the voices in the community been saying with some of these ICE presence and these raids and some of these kidnappings that's been taking place.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Archange, for having us. Thank you to all the people who are currently watching us today. The day laborers, the domestic workers, and anybody that's currently watching us that is probably feeling the same way that we're feeling right now, Archange. That we feel that there's a lot of times where we wake up and it's a different news going on, something crazy going on, someone being abducted, you know, a family being separated, kids not being able to go to school. And that's exactly how we are feeling, but the community's feeling it. And the community has been transmitting that over to us, has been letting us know, mothers who wake up to take their kids to camps. They don't want to take them to camps anymore. You know, they don't sign up their kids for camps. They laborers who go every day, at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work, to go to the corner to see if a contractor comes by are no longer doing it. So that's exactly how the community right now in Princeton is feeling. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear in the community. But then there's also a lot of hope. And that hope comes with a little bit of the work that Resistencia has been doing with the rapid response, with a lot of the know your rights, trying to get community and building community.
Mm-hmm. So, Richard, I'm happy that you talked about the hope. Because I do see Resistencia really at the forefront of keeping the community educated and active. But there was some raids and people got taken. Talk a little about those individuals, those families, and the impact to the community once those raids took place and people disappeared.
Yeah, well, of course, like you mentioned, the raid started, it officially started in 2024, July to be exact. We got a couple calls from day laborers and domestic workers who are members of the community who said, hey, there's some suspicious vehicles here in our town, right on Witherspoon, and they're right here. Can you guys come? It looks very weird. And when we showed up, it was confirmed. ICE agents were particularly, they said they were looking for someone in particular, but when we got there, they were just walking up to random people asking them for documentation, where we immediately, told people like, these are your rights, remember your rights. And we were able to get, ICE to leave the town. But after that, as this new administration came in January, we started already seeing how this is going to turn out to be, and on a national level is already happening. But then they came into Princeton. We had them come into Princeton. We have a family member who is currently a brother from one of the leaders of the day laborers. They actually arrested him.
Oh, wow.
And then we also had another one outside of the Lupita Deli, which is a deli where a lot of day laborers, community members go to, get their breakfast in the morning, their coffee. And, an ICE agent was able to abduct a family member as well. So someone, a young 19-year-old who is currently now in Delaney Hall.
Yeah.
And that was tremendous. And the day right after that, we had a massive raid of a landscaping company where they were able to abduct 15 workers.
Wow.
So the communities felt terrible after this. We had family members who were, didn't know what to do, who to reach out to at the beginning, a lot of uncertainty, but a lot of fear in the community right now.
So for those who are watching, who've never experienced an ICE officer, or who's never witnessed a black truck or a car, who's only seen it in TV, help us understand who ICE is when they get into the community. Are they like approachable? Are they nice? Are they welcoming? Do they give out candy? Help us understand who they really are and and the presence that they bring in the community.
Yeah, well, we know that when they come into our communities, it's never welcoming. They try to intimidate, they intimidate folks. So they come in.
What does that intimidation look like?
They come in on marked vehicles. So it's a lot of confusion for the community members. They come in on marked vehicles. They have different tactics that we've been noticing now. But at the beginning, it was brand new to everyone, so they came in on marked vehicles, regular vehicles, sometimes wearing regular clothes, some wearing vests that says police. Nothing that identifies ICE, just straight police. And they're very intimidating because they are very strategic on what they ask. So sometimes, they sell a perception that they're only looking for someone in particular. But we know that they're profiling people because of the language that they speak. We had a family member a brother that watched his brother get detained outside of his window and couldn't do anything but just watch his brother get detained and call immediately for some help. And, his brother said that they got off the car. His brother was getting coffee from the deli. He got out and they just asked him, do you speak English? And just ran up on him and, handcuffed him. So that's a little bit of how the intimidation is in these tactics. That's what they're doing. They're having different tactics. We had one in Trenton not so far ago that they came in a construction van with a ladder. So it's a lot of ways that they try to do to intimidate and confuse people as well.
Now, when you say profiling, so are you saying that ICE doesn't just walk up to white men in suits in Princeton and pull them over?
Yeah, definitely not.
Wow.
That'll be that. I don't know. I guess I can say that they strictly look for Black or brown folks, people who they think doesn't speak a certain language or looks a certain way, and that's who they've been specifically targeting.
Yeah, we see this happening all around the state of New Jersey, and your organization is one of the most organized, active, and engaged organizations in the entire state. We know that there's other organizations doing really good work, but from my experience, I think you guys have really created a model of what it means to truly respond and not be afraid when ICE comes into your neighborhood, and to let them know that they're not welcome and their racist tactics is unacceptable. And it was just such a beauty that despite all of the pressure and all of the hopelessness that the community is feeling, that you had this extremely big win. And Asma, let's bring you on here. Asma El-Houni, you were instrumental in crafting the strategy and having meetings and keeping folks activated up to the win. Can you just help us understand, number one, what is the Immigrant Trust Act, and why was it so important that the local municipality pass this resolution?
Thank you so much, Archange. So happy to be here. And so, yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about the Immigrant Trust Act. So the Immigrant Trust Act is a piece of legislation that is currently stalling on pause in the legislature for no good reason. And so currently what we have is
in the state legislature, you're saying?
In the state legislature, that is correct. Yep. So currently we have something called the Immigrant Trust Directive, and everybody brags about this directive, where the state of New Jersey has basically essentially de-deputized 34,000 police officers, which is great. So we don't want to hate on that. But the problem is the current state law has a lot of carve-outs. So in other words, though it protects some immigrants, there are a lot of immigrants that are being left out of those protections. In a moment where we know that the Trump administration just gave $150 billion over a 4-year period to both detain and deport immigrants, more protections are needed, not less. And so it's really vital that we're passing something like the Immigrant Trust Act. So really quickly, the difference between the Immigrant Trust Directive, the current law, and the Immigrant Trust Act, the one that we're trying to pass, is 4 things essentially. One, the Immigrant Trust Directive has a lot of carve-outs, and one of those carve-outs is it really goes against our constitutional value of double jeopardy. And double jeopardy means if somebody was ever convicted of anything and they've done their time, they can't be imprisoned, for example, right? Well, for some reason, the state of New Jersey believes that only immigrants this constitutional law doesn't apply to immigrants. And therefore, if an immigrant has ever been arrested within the last 5 years, so we're talking about anything from stealing milk for a family and doing time and then getting out and being stopped later. And if someone has been arrested, maybe jaywalking, say today, and then 4 years ago, they stole milk, they did their time, they came out, police, if they wanted to, can share information with Immigration Customs Enforcement. So we're not saying don't arrest people if they have done anything illegal. What we're saying is the Constitution applies to everyone and should be applied equitably to everyone. Therefore, there's no need to call Immigration Customs Enforcement for a past offense when somebody gets stopped for, like I said, something as simple as jaywalking or whatever, right? So that will take care of that. So we're not doing that. The second thing is, currently, as it stands, the police departments have different training. So a Trenton Police Department will have a different training than the Princeton Police Department. And with the Immigrant Trust Act, all police departments will have a uniform training on the ITA, so that all officers will know what the ITA is, and it'll be uniform. And then the third difference is this will not only apply to the police department not being able to share information with Immigration Customs Enforcement. With the ITA, it will also extend to all government service agencies. And we think that is really important, in particular around data sharing. So that's a very big, huge deal. So a library will no longer be able to ask someone's immigration status. You know, they don't need to have that information, right? And so we think that's going to be really important. And the fourth and the last, which is a pretty big deal, is that there's an accountability factor with the Immigrant Trust Act. Currently, the last time the police department ever told the Attorney General, or at least publicly declared any collaboration with Immigration Customs Enforcement publicly, if it's happening, we don't know. The last reporting was 2019. With the Immigrant Trust Act, there's going to be mandatory reporting where every police department will have to, by law, declare any contact, any collaboration with Immigration Customs Enforcement when that happens. So that's why it's really vital to have this pass. And so what we're doing, and the big win that we just recently won in Princeton, is passing something called the Immigrant Trust Act resolution. And what that is...
Yeah, hold on. Before we get there, I want to ask you a follow-up question, which is, the directive path, even though the directive exists, the danger is that any given moment, an attorney general could come and change that directive. Right. And so that just really doesn't give you long-term protection. So that's one of the reasons you want to have the law passed. And I think that's also very key, that we have too many police departments complicit. And when you inquire whether or not you're working with ICE, some of them try to protect themselves and say, oh, no, we're just out here observing, or we just happen to just not know they were in the community. And with this law, we actually get to see who collaborates, and we get to see where our tax dollars are going, and our tax dollars shouldn't be working against the interests of the community. So I think that's very powerful, what you just said. But now let's just get back to what you were saying. Yes, so we know that this law needs to pass, but why was this local resolution so important to you? And how did you sustain this campaign so that you got this win?
Yeah, apart from the fact that I'm an immigrant and care about my community members, and the fact that it's really mind-boggling that people can be picked up just for the way they look while going to work, like every single one of us. I'm a mom. I can't imagine being separated from my family. And so it was vital that we pass something like this to send a clear message that the Princeton the city of Princeton does not support sharing information with Immigrant Customs Enforcement. And so that was really important for us, so that we can also influence the state legislature, because that needs to pass. And so as many cities as possible need to pass this, so we can send a clear message to the legislature that this has to pass. And so what we did is exactly what you said in the beginning, except I didn't strategize this. This was the community coming together. This was coming together. This was everyone, all different shades and colors coming together to strategize. So yes, we did all the normal organizing things. We had a power analysis on our the members of the council, on the mayor. Yes, we did all of that. We had power mapping. And so our first thing, just to give somebody just a quick, everyone, a quick rundown in case you want to do something like this, is know that if you're trying to do this in your city, what you want is one city council member to introduce the resolution. So that's going to be vital. Whether you email them and ask for a meeting, or go to city council and demand that they do this, that's the first step you want to make sure that somebody's introducing this to try to vote on it. There is no excuse for not doing this. So do not accept no. So I will tell you, we emailed the mayor on March 25th. We got a meeting eventually on April 29th. And then on June 9th, he replied back and basically said, we're not moving forward with this resolution. He was very adamant about that. But we did not take no for an answer.
And that's a good point. How, and maybe let's go back to Richard. Richard, when the community heard that the mayor and the council was not going to move, or they were hesitant, that probably killed the morale of the community, especially when ICE is present and people are looking for some type of hope to protect themselves. What was taking place, and how were you meeting those emotional needs as an organizer during that time, so that you eventually build up to keep them hopeful?
Yeah, I think one of the key points there is that we feel the pain because we are dealing directly with the families, you know, in our membership meetings and our committee meetings when we are meeting with.
And what did that pain look like?
Terrible, you know, mothers who can't see their sons anymore, mothers from other countries calling us, trying to find out where their kids are, where their nephews, where their brothers are, where their uncles are, community members, you know, co-workers coming to us directly like, hey, I haven't heard from my co-worker in 3 days. Was he part of this raid? Was he part of this? You know, I don't know where he is. He's a good guy. All he does is work. He works 2-3 jobs. So feeling that pain, and at the same time organizing this, because we have been doing, you know, deportations and detentions since 2009 as an organization, but feeling this now and seeing this, you know, seeing kids cry, seeing kids that you know, having kids come into your office and seeing them not knowing what's really going on, but feeling and seeing the pain of the other parent who is now a father who can't see the wife, or a wife who can't see the father. I think that's what moved us to keep going and keep pushing. And, you know, the first time that, you know, as Asma mentioned, we heard that they weren't moving forward with this resolution. You know, the community was very down, but the community at the same time said, you know what, this is why we need to keep going. Yeah. This is why we need to keep coming to these meetings. That's why our meetings went from, you know, 80 people to 100 people, and it just kept going and going, and people kept coming over. And we said, you know what, we have to push for this. It's not Resistencia's thing. This is the community. This is what the state needs, the country needs. We all need, and it's not just a Resistencia thing. So we wanted to make that, and I definitely want to expand that out today, that it's not a Resistencia thing. This is a community thing. This is something as human beings that we have to fight for what's right.
Yeah. Powerful stuff, especially feeling the pain of the people that kept you going. Esma, with you, when the council said no, or you know, kind of said no, was leaning to no, and talked about their concerns and wanting to pivot. What you could have gave up, the community, the leaders could have gave up. What was that drive that kept you moving forward? What was it that kept you on assignment?
– Honestly, being human. It doesn't take much. If you have a heart, if you have a brain, you can connect. It is absolutely necessary to stand in this moment. We cannot dig our heads in the sand and pretend this isn't happening. For us, it's very real because we're talking to the family every day. We're looking into the eyes of dads that are holding 3-year-old daughters, true story, and saying, what am I going to tell my daughter? She keeps asking about her mother. Right? These are real stories. So for us, it's really not an option. We absolutely must organize. So if the city council thinks, oh no, we're going to just go to sleep and put our heads on our pillows and continue the next day, we're going to make sure that we're going to be on their minds, because our people are not sleeping. Our people don't get to sleep with their mother and their father because they're being separated. So why should the city council get to sleep comfortably? And so we started off nicely. And as you can see, I know some of the media has picked up on pictures of us yelling and screaming. That didn't happen until later, when doors got shut in our faces. So no is never a no for us. We're going to make them do this because we need this for our community. If they are not leaders to stand for our community, we must be. Yeah. And so, and that was our drive to continue on.
Powerful words. We want to thank Richard and Esma for coming out. They are amazing organizers in New Jersey and Princeton. And this is a message to everyone who wants to fight for justice, who wants to resist, and who wants to make sure they take a stand against fascism, that things won't be easy and people are going to tell you no. But you have to like as Richard said, feel the pain of the community. Community is hurting. People are nervous. People are scared. And you have to take that with you into the fight. And as Asma said, it's important to be human. Don't forget what it means to see the humanity of each other and take that with you so that you turn no's into yeses, everybody. So whether you're working on immigration issues, worker rights, union issues, you're working on Black Lives Matter stuff, you're working on environmental issues, or you're just working on human rights for the Palestinian people, you have to take the pain and the charisma and the humanity with you to the fight, and don't give up. So we want to thank them again, and let's celebrate their victory. And that also creates a model for others around the state to keep fighting, to keep pressing on. Thank you, and God bless you. Family, we have to talk about what's happening in Paterson. Over the last couple of weeks, we had a lot going on in Paterson. We had a water crisis. We had a huge pipe break that took place. 200,000 people in the region were affected. People had to boil water, or many people went without water. And the sad part about this story is most people didn't know what was happening right in our own state. And today we want to bring in Reverend Corey Teague, who is a leader in Paterson, a school board member, and a faith leader who has been consistently on the ground advocating for the people of Paterson. And we want to get his perspective. But more importantly, I think that this is a larger issue of how we continue to neglect infrastructure, especially in poor Black and brown neighborhoods. So today we want to just bring Corey Teague in. Reverend Teague, how are you doing, my brother?
Okay, how's it going? I'm hanging in there.
All right, good.
I'm hanging in there.
Reverend Teague, let's just jump straight into it. Tell me what happened in Paterson, what happened in the region, and from your assessment, just give us your outlook on it.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, there was, and just to put into perspective, we had another water main break a couple of days ago. But a couple of weeks ago, there was a 30-inch water main break up by Hinchliffe Stadium. Subsequently, there were one other, main break on Wayne Ave, and that was possibly, I think, the week after. And a couple of days ago, we had another water main break, which was on the corner of Arch Street and North First.
Mhm.
And they're working on that, and that's a 42-inch main break. I mean, we have a very old infrastructure in this city, for one, that has never really been addressed. I really think that they're trying to point the finger at different folks and different things that are going on, different projects. But the reality is that the infrastructure has been bad and was bad before they even invited folks to come into Paterson. So has it ever been addressed? I mean, the infrastructure itself, even prior to, because I know they're trying to put the blame on everyone and everything, but the Passaic Valley Water Commission have said several times that the pipes are 120, 140 years old.
Wow.
So that really makes you wonder, all of the administrations that have walked in and out of City Hall for those 120, 140 years. Has
Wow.
any one of them ever decided that we're going to put some money towards infrastructure?
So before we get ready to talk about who we should be holding accountable, I want you to take us through what you've observed with your own eyes, and what are some of what you've seen, what's happening with the people during this crisis, what's happening with some of the children, what's happening with people in the community.
Well, we did have, as a school board member, I'm briefed on, any issues that, affect our schools. And we did have a couple of schools that did not have water. Water's been restored to those various facilities. But for the most part, Paterson is a very resilient city. We've been through a lot. This takes me back to 2012 when we had, I believe it was Hurricane Katrina that came through. Yeah, and it ravished our first ward area, which right now the first ward is going through, a bit of a crisis right now with the water main breakdown there. But for the most part, what I've seen and what I've witnessed is, the resilience of Paterson residents, people coming together. I know you see a lot of things on social media of them handing out water, but there are many stories that have never been covered of neighbors buying water for their neighbors, and people in the community reaching out and bringing water to one another and making sure people are situated and have what they need. Even situations where families of special needs children, like my son is autistic, and a couple weeks ago, a family came and brought us some water, bottled water, for
Hmm.
him. And so I've seen the resilience of Paterson, and it seemed like every time we hit a snag in the road, we come together.
Yeah. Well, we all know the resilience of people of Paterson. I mean, you guys have been
Mhm.
through a lot of different crises, and we've seen how the community kind of sticks together. Now, we were getting reports that the city was asking people to boil water, while people were saying we don't even have water to boil. Was
Right.
that some of what you've heard or you experienced?
Yes, and that was pretty diabolical to ask people to boil water when they didn't even have it. And then
Mm.
you had the issue with people that were boiling their water. What does that do? That makes the gas bill go up, because you're using the
Mm.
stove. So it's like a constant cycle. So now you have people facing shutoffs because of their electric bill, because
Yeah.
they've had to run the stove to boil water just to take a bath or to wash their clothes or to drink.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like being caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that in
Hmm.
2025, we have infrastructure falling apart. We got folks having to boil water in America. It's
Yeah,
always it's always funny how we like to criticize other nations, but
yeah,
then in America, we consistently see that there's always a lack of infrastructure investment, and it takes a crisis for people to even start to pay attention. And I think it's
right.
only going to get worse. We've seen this around the nation. Now, in your assessment, um, who are those that the community should be holding accountable, not just for the infrastructure investment, but for the investment that it's going to take to actually build a better infrastructure in Paterson and in the region?
Well, right now, definitely, when we speak of elected officials, the office of the mayor, um, individuals in our, governor's office, folks in our state legislature, there should have been, even though I say there needs to be, but there should have been more legislation or more funding specifically geared towards strengthening, infrastructures in cities like Patterson. It's not a mystery that we have a very old plumbing system in this city. And if you ride around, you will see areas where they have a huge steel, I don't even know what you call it, but it looks like a steel top in the middle of the street. And what I'm told is underneath is nothing but a hole and an open pipe. And it's an old pipe, and they have to literally cut holes in the streets. So every now and then they come by and lift it up and monitor it to make sure that
Yeah.
another main break doesn't break out. Yeah. So we're really dealing with, a tremendous crisis in terms of infrastructure. And I really believe that, let's face it, next year is a mayoral election. 3 seats are up on the city council. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
been following Jersey City. The mayor of Jersey City isn't running again, and 3 of the council members over there aren't running again. So, for whatever reason, people are starting to scramble and disappear. But we as the people are going to have to take back the reins. But
Yeah.
speaking specifically of Patterson, I think whoever runs for at large, whoever runs for the mayor's seat, there needs to be some really pointed questions towards infrastructure and what do they plan to do to address that.
Yeah, I think that this Patterson water crisis shows why the community needs to be engaged in the political process, and they need to hold people accountable, but not just on the local level, because this is going to take the entire state in order to fix and to repair and to create a better community for all Patterson and those throughout Passaic County who were affected by this. And that's why we need to make sure we educate our people about holding elected officials accountable, both on the local level, on the county level, and in the state level. Now, with the few minutes that we have left over, Reverend Teague, I want to ask you if you had an opportunity to speak to the New Jersey legislature and the state government and the governor, and also to the elected local local elected officials,
Yes.
what would be your message on behalf of the people to them?
Well, on behalf of the people, words are good. Words are good, but in the words of Reverend Sharpton, at some point, words must become deeds that meet needs. And this issue with infrastructure has been, for lack of a better term, kicking the can down the road. And we have been kicking the can down the road for decades about this infrastructure issue. And so I believe it's time for the governor to, I know this is his last term, but I believe it's time to sign an executive order or a I don't know if they can do a state of emergency, but an executive order to bring in some folks to specifically address the infrastructure issue. Because according to the Passaic Valley Water Commission, this latest water main break, they don't even have a date of when they're going to be able to complete it.
Oh, wow.
So, and then you don't know if there may be other water main breaks that may break out as a result of the pressure that's been built up with this one that was broken and, and taken offline. So, as much as I hate to say it, it appears to be almost like a domino effect. It's like we're one severe storm away from absolute chaos in the third largest municipality in the state. So I would plead and beg with our state legislature, our governor's office, local administration, city council, everybody who is involved with making decisions that affect the water system, to really start having some serious conversations about how we're going to properly fund infrastructure. And and not for nothing, the city of Paterson has yet to adopt their budget. They still haven't done it. But if you present to the people that within this budget there's funds that are going to be allocated specifically to address the infrastructure, you may not get as you'll still probably get those who say, hey, taxes is too high, and it is, but you'll definitely get some people that will say, hey, look, they actually want to do something that's going to benefit the residents, the taxpayers, because people are really tired of the issue with the water.
Yeah.
Now you have some families, and I forgot to bring this up, but you have some families who have to now bring in extended family members to take showers and things in their home because their water's not working. So now their water bill increases. So it's like a constant, it's like a cycle here. So I really believe to the folks who are getting ready to come into office in January, because we know we're going to have a pretty much new government across the board between now and January. I should say between now and July of next year. And all of these folks that are coming in, they really need to make infrastructure one of their key points in trying to address it and making sure that these 120, 140-year-old pipes are somehow either repaired or replaced so that we don't constantly run into this.
Reverend Teague, thank you so much for that message. I think you're spot on. And to the people of Paterson, the ball is in your hand. These folks will not listen to Black and brown people just because there's a crisis. If you don't make noise, if you don't stand up, if you don't fight back, if you don't push up against people and call out those elected officials, you will never see any investment into our communities. So again, Reverend Teague, I just want to thank you for coming on. I know we will also bring BLM Paterson in another time because of the work that they're doing. But I want to thank you for your continuous advocacy. And for people of Paterson, keep your heads up. God bless you and keep fighting for justice.
Audio Jungle.